You're listening to the Adventure Sports Podcast. We talk with adventurers from around the globe to bring you the inspiration and motivation you need to get started in the outdoors or to keep you moving if you're already there. Now here's your host, Kurt Linville.
Hey friends, can you believe that it's June already? Today is June the 2nd. Thanks for listening in. You might think that you have a busy life, and you probably do. Today's guest is going to show us how that even with a very busy, intense, complicated life, you can still get out there and have some fun. Not only that, but the fun can benefit you even more. But before we get into all of that, I want to talk about stickers. Yes, a lot of you have already sent me a mailing address so that I could send you some free stickers. And the check's in the mail. No, they really are. I mailed them on Friday. Sorry it took me so long to get around to getting them all done, but there were a lot of people that wanted stickers. And for everyone else, if you would like free Adventure Sports Podcast stickers, it's just a way to help get the word out. We would be happy to send you some. Email us at info@adventuresportspodcast.com. Give us a mailing address, and I'll send you a few stickers. If you have some sort of an event coming up and you need more stickers, then just let me know how many people are going to be at the event, how many stickers you need. We'll send them your way. Thanks for doing your part and celebrating the Adventure Sports Podcast. Now, on with the show. Hi, friends. Today I have Tara Young with us, and this is going to be a fun episode about endurance, like endurance sports, but not only endurance sports. It's about doing a lot with our lives, getting it all in. And let me explain what this means. Tara has finished an Ironman. She is working on the World Marathon Majors. And I mean, that used to be, I think, 6, and then it became 7, and now it's almost 9 marathons all over the globe. So when you complete all the marathons, you get a medal. It would be the 6 medal or the 7 medal or the 9 medal. But here's the fun part, okay? You think, that sounds pretty busy. Tara has 5 kids, and she's been to 40 countries, and she has visited all 50 states, and she's been to all the national parks, and she's an attorney on top of all of that. Sarah, how do you get it all in?
Thanks, Curtis. A lot of time management, planning, and discipline, I think, are the 3 main factors that allow me to get all that you mentioned into one day, 1 week, one life.
That's great. We're going to dive into how you do that because a lot of people just think they're too busy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm one of these people who tends to lean into, I am so busy, I don't know how I could do one more thing.
Mm-hmm.
These are personality types, so I don't criticize these personality types. I embrace them. I'm the spontaneity person. I don't want to have my time scheduled. I don't want it on a calendar. I just want to know that weekend is open and I can do what I want when I get there. Other people, that drives them nuts. They want to know what's going to go on. They want to plan it so they can be sure that it happens. And both approaches are golden, I think.
Yeah.
But I do think someone who does a lot more planning probably squeezes more in.
I think that's fair. And yes, to your point, like both personalities are definitely valued. And I obviously have the opposite personality where I like everything planned, and spontaneity gives me hives. So my calendar is always pretty well planned in advance. But to your point, there's definitely room for both.
Well, I think you're living proof that having a really good process for planning can build a really full and rich life, and you get to do some amazing things. And we're going to not just talk about scheduling. We're going to talk about the things you do. But it just blows my mind that you actually are doing this much all the time. And my wife and I mentioned just before we hit record, my wife and I found out that we don't have the same personality type when it comes to this on our honeymoon. And it worked out. But I remember a conversation we had maybe 10 days into our honeymoon. She looked at me and said, "This is not a honeymoon."
Mm-hmm.
I said, "What do you mean it's not a honeymoon?" She goes, "Well, where are we going to be next week?" I'm like, "I don't know. That's the point." But she goes, No, I want to know the hotel we're staying in, what to anticipate. What we learned over the years is that I like to take the calendar and put X's through weekends. And I say, I don't know what we're going to do. That depends on the weather. It Depends on what we would like at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not going to schedule those weekends for anything else, because then we won't be able to do what I want to do when the time comes.
Right.
And then she takes other weekends and says, okay, this is the weekend we're going to do X, Y, Z, X, Y, Z, X, Y, Z, right? And that works for us.
Yeah.
We're okay with that. So,
sounds like a good balance.
but without the scheduling, I don't know how you can get as much in. So you said you've been to all 50 states.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of just one of your accomplishments, but also all the national parks. 60,
Yeah.
how many is it?
63 now. They
63.
added a couple in the last couple of years.
Okay, so explain to us how it is that you approach this. Did you make a decision? I want to go to all 50 states, and I want to visit all 63 national parks, and I want to do it on site. Or was it more random than that?
So I think the first few states and the first few national parks were sort of random, just part of normal travel. And then the more states that I got to and the more national parks that I saw, it became a goal to see all 50 and to see all 360, to see all the national parks. And so then I went into planning mode, and every time I had a chance to travel, it was either to check off a state or check off a national park. And sometimes I combine that with a race, and sometimes I combine that with taking the kids along. And so for the national parks, especially because they're kind of hard to get to, it took literally 20 years of, off and on effort. And so one thing I would encourage people to think about is if you have a big goal, to break it down into smaller pieces, and also don't put pressure on yourself that you have to do it all in one fell swoop. So, again, it took me a long time to get to all the national parks, but it remained a consistent goal, and over, many years I was able to accomplish it.
Do you have a handful of favorites that you would say, if you can't do them all, do these?
Well, yes, but the problem is that my top 5 are the ones that are really hard to get to. So I would say if you can do the 5, if you had to pick 5 within the continental U.S., I would say the Utah Grand Slam, the 5 in Utah are amazing. Also, there's 8 in Alaska. So if you have the wherewithal to get to Alaska, I would definitely do those 8. My personal top 5 are American Samoa, which is a 5-hour plane ride from Hawaii. So that takes some effort, but it's really neat when you're there. And then Ile Royale is off the coast of Minnesota and Michigan, and it's an island. So you have to take a boat to get there. So that's pretty cool. And then Dry Tortugas is off the coast of Key West. So again, it's a 3-hour boat ride from Key West, which is, the furthest southern part of the United States to begin with. And then I mentioned Alaska, but Lake Clark within Alaska was one of my favorites. You take a small airplane and seaplane, you land on the lake, and it's just stunningly beautiful. So that was another favorite. I'd say those are the ones that come to mind immediately.
Okay, you just named 5 national parks that I didn't know were national parks. That's amazing. So this is an advantage to your approach to this.
Mm-hmm.
If you decided to see all the national parks, that means you're going to discover the lesser known ones, and you just listed them as your favorites.
Yeah. Yeah. I really like the ones that are a little bit harder or less touristy and harder to get to. Usually because they're hidden gems, I would say.
I love it. So, that's kind of mind-blowing. I did not even know that those were national parks.
Yeah.
So that's the advantage to your approach. Most people would say Yellowstone, Yosemite, Glacier maybe,
Yeah.
Those are great.
Yeah.
Fantastic, but they're busy.
Yep. Very busy. So
very, very busy. So what is the one in Alaska? You said Clark's?
Lake Clark.
Lake Clark. Describe that for us.
So it's a lake that's surrounded by mountains, and the water is just this like aquamarine blue that's pristine. And like I said, you land on the lake, and then there's I wouldn't even call it a town. It's like a few houses of people that live there full time. And from there, you can kayak on the lake, which we did. And you're just sitting in this, I think it used to be a caldera of a volcano. So you're sitting in this just beautiful lake that you can see down into, and then you look up and it's ringed by snow-capped mountains, and it's just otherworldly.
Wow.
Yeah.
So is it something you just do a day trip for, or is there lodging and stuff like that?
I think you can stay there. We did a day trip from Anchorage. If you're going to really do all of Alaska in one fell swoop, which is what we did, then it makes sense to have a few days in Anchorage where you do day trips to different parks and then go up to Fairbanks and do the last two from there. But almost all of them you have to fly into. So on the one hand, it creates logistics, and on the other hand, it makes it easy to do a day trip if you're flying there.
Interesting. So I visited Alaska. Boy, it's been, I hate to admit this, but nearly 30 years ago.
Okay.
At the time, Ringel St. Elias was difficult to experience because there wasn't a lot of access. You drove through and said, oh, I'm here, I guess. But I was like, well, now what do? You have any recommendations for that one?
Yeah, so you can drive the road. It's still open, but I think it's like 8 hours from Anchorage. So unless you're really looking for an adventure, I would not necessarily recommend that. So what we did is we drove to Sitna, which is maybe like, I think I might be getting the name of the town wrong, but it's about 2 hours north of Anchorage. And then we took a little plane, like half an hour, 45 minutes over the pass. And maybe this has changed since you were there, but they have turned the Kennecott Lodge into a hotel. And so we actually spent the night there, and we had an amazing dinner it was June. So we were like outside on the porch with this beautiful view of the mountains, having a really nice dinner. It was a pretty special experience, but I will say the mosquitoes were intense. So
they would be.
Bring a lot of bug spray if you are planning on going.
And Denali, which people might be calling McKinley these days.
Yes.
But that one, I was really surprised when we got there because I found out that most people that visit the national park never see the mountain because it's socked in by weather so much of the time. And that's one of the reasons why it's one of the more dangerous and difficult mountains to climb. It's socked in by weather all the time. Right. But as we were there, we were one of the few. It's like 1 out of 10 or something. Or maybe worse odds than that. But we just happened to see the clouds part and frame Denali for 5 minutes.
Oh, that's
and then
amazing.
It was gone again.
Oh, wow.
What was your experience?
So I have two. I went to Alaska with my mom an interesting side story is we were there when 9/11 happened. So getting home was very much an adventure unto itself. But before that happened, we went to Denali. And I can't remember offhand if we had good weather or not. That trip was nice unto itself. And then when I went back with my husband 2 years ago to do the rest of the parks, we took the train from Anchorage to Fairbanks. And so we went through Denali, but to your point, it was socked in, so we didn't see it that time. As a side note, if you are in Alaska and the airspace closes down a la 9/11, there is no getting home.
I can't imagine. I mean, there's the Alaska Highway, right?
Right, yeah. Well, they closed
haul.
Yes. Fair point, but they did close the Canadian border for a while so that you couldn't even drive if you wanted to. But
so how long were you stuck there?
Thankfully, only about 3 days. At the time, I was living in Seattle, so the main entry point to the continental U.S. from Anchorage is Seattle. So we were lucky in the sense that we could hop on pretty much any plane that was going south. We were able to rebook like 3 days after our original scheduled return date.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, Alaska is amazing. I think a lot of people see it on a map that haven't been there and they don't realize how huge it is.
It's
massive. And so flying in Alaska makes a lot of sense. I mean, I don't know how you'd have to spend years there to see it all any other way. And I don't think that's an exaggeration. I think it might take years. But amazing. I mean, if you were to put Alaska over the continental U.S., it covers a huge chunk of it. It's like the United States in one state. Is an exaggeration, but it is huge.
Yeah. I think it's like definitely bigger than Texas and most of the western U.S. if you laid it on top.
Yeah. And it probably covers all of Europe. Who knows? But
yeah.
Let's move on to other things. You are an endurance athlete. And I had to look up the World Marathon Majors because
Yeah.
I haven't been in that circle. And then when I saw it, I said, "Oh, how cool is that? It's another
Mhm.
list,
Yeah.
But it's not just a list of things you can do. These are the biggest marathons, the
Mhm.
famous marathons. That's why they call them the majors. They're the
Yeah.
classics, right? Tell
Mhm.
us about
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, so it originally started off as the 6 stars, as you said. So is New York, Boston, Chicago in the US, and then Berlin, Tokyo, and London overseas. And now they've added Sydney for sure. And then I think there's 2 more that are pending, which I believe are Shanghai and South Africa. But regardless, if you do the original 6, you get the 6-star medal, which is like a medal that's quite large and has a little like bias relief of each city on it. So who doesn't like a shiny medal? So that's one of my motivating factors. After I had my last child, I decided to run New York as sort of a post-baby goal. And so once I did that, and then I qualified for Boston, I was like, well, I've already got 2, so now I might as well do the other 4. So I just finished Tokyo this spring, and then I'm hoping to get into London for 20 of 27. And if I do that, then I'll get my 6 stars. And I'm also doing Sydney this August, so it's a little wonky how it works, but essentially, if I get to London next year, then I'll get my 6-star and my 7-star. So
Wow.
I'm excited about that.
Ah, how fun. So I want to point out something for the listeners, which you obviously know. When you have a list, not everyone wants a list. It's another personality thing. But when you have a list, it will take you places you would not have gone otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
And you experience things. The list just becomes kind of the motivator to get you out the door, is the way I see it.
Yep, I would agree.
And so you're going to some really cool places for these marathons.
Yep.
Were any of them first-time visits? You hadn't been there before?
No, well, no, I take that back. Tokyo and Japan were my first time there, so that was really neat.
Nice. What's it like to run a marathon? Let's go to Tokyo. Let's do that one specifically. What was it like to run the Tokyo Marathon?
So I think any big city race obviously is a big event. And so the nice thing is that it's usually like there's a lot of crowd support, and you kind of feed off the energy of the crowd, and you have other runners with you. And so you have their support. So that all makes it much more entertaining and easier to get through than like your long training runs where it's just you and your music and, usually not any other people. So it's a nice way to cap off your training cycle. That being said, every marathon is a long way to go. And so by mile 21, 22, like regardless of how much fun you're having, like just everything hurts and you want to be done. So you have to push through that, and then the nice thing is if you've done multiple marathons, like you kind of know that it's coming. So you can say, yes, this sucks, but this will be over in 40 minutes. So let's just hang on until the end. And then when you do finish, there's usually like a big arch and like lots of people cheering, and you get a medal and snacks. So, it's a nice way to be done.
What I love about it is that you can incorporate something big to do while you travel. You could think of it that way.
Yeah.
Or you can think about it, well, I'm going to do a marathon. I might as well travel while I'm there. But I love travel that has a purpose.
Yes.
I really like that. And does that work for you too?
It does. I also travel just to, see a new place or go somewhere with my kids and have some bonding time. But I would say travel with a race is one of my favorites because you're combining 2 different things that I really enjoy.
That's neat. Back to marathons for a minute. What does it take if someone says, I've always wanted to do that. I have no idea. How do you get ready for a marathon? How do you make that happen?
It's important to take it in steps. So, if you've never run before, then try a couch to 5K plan and see if you like that, and then build up to a 10K and a half. And, if you're already at a 10K, try a half marathon first. I see a lot of people, especially like younger people who sometimes this works, but I would not advise upon doing it, which is they've never run before and they sign up for a marathon and then they don't train well and they sort of either have a bad race day or they don't finish. And so if you take a more planned approach and build up even if you've never run before and you set your goal as a marathon, that's fine. But just make sure that you're building your training plan to take those incremental steps. Otherwise, you can get burned out, you can get injured, or you won't be prepared enough. And then either there's lots of training plans online, but I would definitely encourage, especially people who are brand new to running, to either get a coach or join a running group, and also go to like a good running store and get fitted for like the right kind of shoes, because the more miles you put on your body, if you have shoes that are wrong for your foot, you will feel it with all those extra miles.
You mentioned discipline along with scheduling when it came to getting a lot into a busy life. I think preparing for a marathon probably requires a lot of discipline. Do you have any tricks, any hacks for people? Because it'd be easy to say I'm going to do this and then just not get around to doing it.
Yeah. 2 things. 1, maybe 3. 1, if you say you're going to do it, then you've got to do it. And there's no getting around the fact that you need to. I will say perhaps try to schedule it, like if you're not a morning person, I guess I'll say it in reverse. I am a morning person. I do all my running in the morning. I would hate the idea of having to do an evening run. So like I make, obviously I schedule my runs for the morning. Other people are afternoon or evening people. So like don't fight your natural optimum time, because that will give you a better chance at success. But then once you put it on the calendar, you need to get it done. And I think that's the biggest thing of discipline, is like getting out there even if you don't want to. All that being said, life happens. And if something gets in the way of that particular run, don't beat yourself up over it, but also move it to another time and then make sure that you get it done eventually. Because the more runs you skip, the less trained you'll be and the more you'll feel it on race day, or perhaps not even finish, which would be a bummer.
Okay. What are the benefits that you experienced personally for training for and doing marathons?
I think all endurance sports, and for me, especially the Ironman, give me a self-confidence that I use in other parts of my life. For example, you mentioned I'm an attorney, and I'm the lead attorney for a renewable energy company. And on top of that renewable energy company is backed by what's called a private equity firm. And so when I first started this job, I didn't have a lot of private equity experience, and I was really feeling intimidated by the people and the issues that I was facing. But I leaned into especially my Ironman experience, and said to myself, like, if I can do an Ironman, then I can conquer this professional challenge that is in front of me. And because of that, I have a lot more confidence in my role now than I did when I first started. But I don't think that I would have taken those steps or believed in myself if I didn't have that underlying experience from the endurance sports.
Well, I love the idea of this World Marathon Majors. I think I had not heard of that before. And I think it's so cool.
Yeah, and there's a nice little community. When you do one of the majors, you'll see a lot of people who have like a t-shirt or something on their back that has like the races that, especially if they're doing their 6-star and they're going to get their big medal at the end, they'll have like something on their shirt. So that's pretty cool.
I was just thinking about how fun it would be to do a marathon in Cape Town.
Yeah, that would be cool.
It's a long way.
Yeah.
And it's a place I've never been. And it would pull me into an experience that I probably would not have done otherwise, getting to South Africa and experiencing all of that.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
Okay. Well, maybe you can add it to your bucket list.
I don't have a list. I just have a bucket.
Okay. Put it in the bucket.
No, I'm teasing a little bit.
Yeah.
Actually, Tara, I think it's important to have a list. My list might be shorter than some, but I think it's very important to have 2 goals, 2 dreams, 2 vacations, 2 trips, 2 adventures that you're planning at the same time.
Yeah, that's easy.
I just think that's important, because when you finish one, you don't feel the letdown of, oh no, now what? There's no vacuum. It's like, oh hey, I've got this other one coming up, and then you have to add another. So always have 2, but you can also have a lot more than 2 if you want.
Yep.
So,
I like that idea.
Anyway, 40 countries. Okay. What kind of a traveler were you to hit 40 countries? Is this business travel? Is this family travel? Is it backpacking the world? How did you do it?
Yeah, so it's morphed over time. I was an exchange student I got the bug in high school when I went to France with my French. I guess to back up, I was solidly middle class growing up, and so we did not go on international vacations. But I was in French in high school, and we went to France through the school, which was cool. Gave me the bug for travel. And it reinforced that I wanted to see the rest of the world. Like, I'm a big reader, and so I had been read all these books about different places in the world. So that kind of got me started. And then I was an international relations major in college. So I did a year abroad in Germany. And so because I was right in the middle of Europe, I was able to go to basically see all of Europe when I was in college. And then when I was in college, I met my still to this day best friend, who also is very into travel. And so then after college, before either one of us got married or had kids, we would make it a point to go to a country together. And then, which we still do to this day. And then as our family grew, I was lucky that my in-laws, through our first few kids, my in-laws were very, very gracious and would take the kids for 1 week every year. And my husband and I would travel international during that week. And then as the kids got older and my in-laws got a little more, as they got older too and couldn't help as much, we started incorporating the kids into our international travels. And so now they're ages 20 to 6, so we can pretty much take them wherever. When I was thinking about this episode, something that came to my mind is in the process of planning, to know where you are in your season of life. And there's some trips that are easier, more manageable with little kids, and some that are not, and some you don't ever want to take kids. And so making sure that you're thinking through where you want to go, and whether that needs to be a solo trip with friends, with your spouse, with kids. I think that that's important to do up front, or else you'll be trying to see museums with a toddler that's, no one's happy about. So,
yeah. Here's a question that I'm really curious about. Do you ever return to places you've already visited because you like it so much? Or are you like, no, I have a list of 60 countries that I'm going to hit, and we're sticking to the list?
A blend. I definitely tend to not return places because I want to see other places. However, when I did the Berlin Marathon, which was part of the 6 Stars, I had obviously been to Berlin when I was in college. So I would say I'll go back if it's required for some other reason. But if I have my druthers, I lean more towards seeing a new place.
Were you always someone who wanted to take the road less traveled? You talked about how much France impacted you, and then you went to school in Germany, and a lot of people are like, that sounds hard.
Right.
So,
yeah, I definitely like seeing places with adventurous, like-minded people, but I don't really enjoy places that are just overrun with tourists, especially the quintessential obnoxious American, which
can be.
Yes, I do try to seek out the lesser known, less traveled if I can.
So you prefer to be a traveler instead of a tourist. That's what I hear you say.
That's a good way to put it.
For those who are listening or saying, what is he talking about? That being a traveler means you're experiencing the place, but not as a tourist. A tourist wants to go see and do the touristy things, and there's a stereotype associated with that. And yeah. But being a traveler is a matter of being more, I would say, subtly enmeshed in the culture, maybe.
Yeah. At least trying to understand and meet people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So travel has been a big part of your life. How has that contributed to who you are?
So that also goes into the self-confidence. When I live in Las Vegas, it's very suburban. I literally drive a minivan. There's not a lot. It's very much my comfort zone, and there's not a lot of challenge in my day-to-day life. But when we were in Tokyo, you have to, and it's gotten a lot easier with technology. You need to go everywhere on the subway, so you've got to figure out the app and how do I get a ticket, and get from point A to point B, and navigating all that, especially if I'm traveling alone, is and successful. Then again, it's that okay, I can figure this out. I can do new things. I can do hard things. It adds to that self-confidence.
I remember, I grew up in a small town.
Mm-hmm.
It was a town that a lot of people never leave.
Right.
Matter of fact, my grandparents, I guess I'm trying not to overstate this. I believe my grandmother had not been out of the state
Wow.
as a grandmother.
Wow.
My grandfather had, because he did some trucking,
Mm-hmm.
but rarely did they ever leave the county.
Wow.
But you know what? They loved it.
Mm-hmm.
They loved where they were. They loved the community. They loved the lifestyle that they had. And I don't have any criticism, but that kind of exemplifies the way the small town worked. As a matter of fact, I dated a gal in high school, and her dad told me the story. They decided they were going to go to Colorado. So they got in the car and they drove to Colorado because everyone talked about seeing Colorado from Oklahoma.
Mm.
They made it to Colorado and couldn't find a hotel room in Colorado Springs and decided it wasn't worth the effort. And they drove all the way back home same day.
Oh, wow.
I know that sounds like a crazy story, but that's where I grew up, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there were people in our small town, Tara, who did what you did, who graduated from high school and said, I'm going to France for a year. Bye.
Yep.
And the rest of us would stand there with our mouths hanging open. How do you do that? Is that possible? Is that safe?
Right.
I think that's the spirit of adventure.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And definitely you have it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, do you think there was something in your life that contributed to that built that in you?
A lot of it is nature versus nurture. I will say that although we didn't travel internationally, my dad is from Massachusetts. And so I did grow up flying from the West Coast to the East Coast and seeing that variation within the United States, and also, navigating the airports and the airplanes and whatnot. So I think that definitely got it going when I was younger. I adore my life. I adore my kids. But as I mentioned, I live in the suburbs. I drive a minivan. That thing that feeds my soul is going on a trip, an adventure, even if it's a weekend thing.
And you can appreciate both. That's what I like. You say, I love my life, but you get to go recharge your batteries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you have a story about a trip you took alone where maybe there was a moment where you said, yes, this is why I'm here?
Well, I wasn't alone, but I was with a girlfriend that I travel with frequently. And we went to El Salvador. The thing that pulled the trigger for me is that they started a direct flight from Vegas to El Salvador. And I was like, well, I got to check this out. But as you know, especially given both of our ages, El Salvador was not always a safe place to go. And so although it's changed in the past few years, I was extremely nervous. And I was meeting her in El Salvador because she lives in a different state. So I flew alone from Vegas to El Salvador. I was getting in late at night and I had a car prearranged to get to the hotel. But all of that, I had some anxiety. So thankfully, everything went smoothly. I got to the hotel. I met up with her, went straight to bed. And then the hotel was on the beach, but because it was dark, I hadn't, seen it coming in. So I woke up in the morning and there was this beautiful sunrise over the beach. And then our hotel had the restaurant was open air overlooking the beach. And I was having breakfast, this beautiful fruit tray and coffee. And then, this beautiful view of the ocean, and it's known for its surfing. So all the surfers were out there. And I was like, this is what made all that anxiety and stress worth it, to get to this place. And the rest of the trip was great too. So it was worth kind of getting over that fear to go there.
I love what you just described of getting to a place in the dark
and
then realizing where you are in the morning. I love that experience. It's not that I plan for it, but when it happens, I get excited. I'm like, when the sun comes up,
right?
What is this going to be?
Yeah, for sure.
I put out an episode that was kind of a silly one about a Bigfoot encounter. And it was one of those scenarios. My son and I ended up in the woods in the middle of the night and camped and had amazing experiences as the sun came up. And there's a whole episode on that. I won't bore everyone with it, but that was one of the biggest times in my life where we woke up to realize where we were and what was going on around us was not at all what we expected. And so We didn't actually see Bigfoot.
I was going to ask, did you see Bigfoot?
No, we did
Okay.
not. But here's the fun thing. The fun thing is we ended up from about 3 o'clock in the morning until noon trying to solve the mystery of what we experienced and hiking through the woods, looking at things, discovering things. And there were some aspects of the experience that go unexplained. I'll leave it at that. There's a
Okay,
mystery.
I'll have to go listen to the episode.
We've got to talk about doing an Ironman.
Yeah.
So I want to hear that story. Where was your Ironman?
So it was in Arizona, which is the closest one to Vegas, and also well known for being a good first-timer Ironman. The other one's in Florida, if anyone cares. But when I first got into triathlon, when I was about 30, I said that I was going to do a full by the time I turned 40. And then I was coming up on my 39th birthday, and like, you need a good year to train for a full. So I was like, darn it, I guess I have to do this. Which, to your point, goes to the discipline, because a lot of people would say, oh, never mind. But I was like, I really felt like I had to do it. So I got a coach and I got a full year training plan. And then something I'll mention, for those who have a family or just something else that you're committed to time-wise, I built out my schedule so that I did my long bike rides. I took PTO on Fridays, not every Friday, but certain Fridays I took PTO. And I did my long bike ride so that I could get my long run done on Saturday. And then I still had time for the family on Sunday, because if I had put everything into the weekend, then it wasn't fair to them for my training schedule. But through that process, obviously you build the physical capability, but I think the most important part is building the mental, which is like learning how to be bored, learning how to be uncomfortable, learning how to fix your bike if it breaks, having the confidence that if something is going to go haywire, and just having that mental fortitude that like you will figure it out, you will keep going and finish. And at the end of the Ironman, there's a particular announcer, I forget his name, but he goes to every Ironman, and when you cross, he says, Tara Young, you are an Ironman. And like, it is quite special to hear that announcement when you go over the finish line.
I can't hardly imagine what that would be like.
Yeah.
I mean, the Ironman is so hard.
Yeah.
So we're talking about, correct me here, the swim is what, 5 miles?
No, it's only 2.4, and then the bike is 112, and then it's a full marathon after that.
And a full marathon. Okay, with the swim, bike, run. You kept running. You do marathons. What about the swimming and the biking? Do you love those too, or is that just part of it?
Swimming, I swam in high school, and I swim masters, so that the physicality of swimming wasn't a problem for me, but I have a deep fear of open water, and so I really had to work hard to get over that.
Okay.
Thankfully, the Arizona one is in, like, they call it a river. It's really a drainage ditch in the middle of town. So it is not
Arizona after all.
Yeah. So you're not swimming in an ocean, which is comforting, but it's still not a pool with sides that you can touch if you get into trouble. And then for me, the hardest thing was the bike, because I'm not very fast, and they have internal cutoff times. So even if you have 17 hours to do the whole race, but you have to be off the bike by hour 10, which kind of annoyed me because I'm a fast runner. So I'm like, can't I just have an hour from the run into the bike? And so I had to work especially hard on getting my bike time up, but I was able to finish with like an hour to spare. So that was good.
Yay.
Yeah.
So the biking was the bigger challenge for you.
Yeah. You can't have like music on the course. And so going back to what I said earlier is like, by the time I hit the running, I was just like, I was so tired of talking to myself. I was like, I'm so poor. Like, the biggest challenge was not the physical part. It was the mental, like just to keep knowing you had another 4 hours to like ruminate was almost crushing, but made it through.
I'll bet you learned something from that as well.
Yeah. Obviously you can do it and push through. So.
Well, I was just thinking about people that go on silent retreats. Have you heard of these things?
I have. It sounds horrific.
What's that?
It sounds horrific.
I think there's something about it, though, that how much I'm a talker, obviously.
Yeah.
I think, wow, I don't know if I'd even want to try, but
right.
I have found there's a solace, a recharging, something deep that happens in silence.
Yeah, that is
And
true.
I've interviewed a lot of people about hiking long distances or running long distances and how it gives them time to think that they don't get otherwise. And they learn things about themselves that were totally unanticipated.
Yeah.
And that's one of the beauty of big events, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, how else are you going to have time, especially with 5 kids? How else are you going to have time for yourself to actually process what's going on in your world?
Yes, I agree. Like, my morning run is definitely my morning meditation. Like, to your point, it gives you time to think and work out problems. And I'm a Christian, so I get a lot of my prayers done during that time too. So it is definitely that mental break that is needed for the rest of the day.
How have these big events, marathons, training for these sorts of things, even travel, how has that impacted your spiritual life?
I think seeing the world to me just reinforces especially seeing the beauty in some of these like far-flung places to me points to the Creator and how He created these beautiful parts of the world for us to enjoy. So definitely reinforces my faith in God. Also, like, I mentioned having some anxiety about going to El Salvador. Like, I always pray for that I will be safe, traveling mercies, and I've seen God protect me multiple times, and so I'm obviously thankful to Him for that, and continues to build my faith that He will protect me going forward.
This has also impacted your children.
Mm-hmm.
This lifestyle.
Yeah.
Can you speak to that?
Sure. So again, I mentioned we live in the suburbs, and my kids go to a private school. They could in my opinion, they could very easily fall into a bubble, a privileged bubble. And so in traveling, I hope to expose them not only to other parts of the world, but that a lot of people in this world don't have the things that we have, and that A, we should be grateful for what we do have, and B, a part of our life is an obligation to help those in need and to make the world a better place.
Yeah, don't take it for granted.
Yeah.
To whom much is given, much is required.
Exactly. Yes.
Those sorts of things.
Mm-hmm.
What about, it might be a harder question to answer, but they have seen your discipline in training for an Ironman or a marathon. They've seen your discipline in planning big trips and accomplishing big goals.
Yep.
Do you have a story that illustrates how that may have impacted them? Can you see your example in their lives?
So I don't have a direct example of a particular trip or anything, but I think to your point, sort of growing up with me, and then my son, I think, got a lot of my personality traits, but he is very dedicated to football and played football all the way through high school. And then he ended up getting a football scholarship to the South Dakota School of Mines, and is also a mechanical engineering major like my husband. And so now he has both football, college level football, granted it's D2, and a heavy mechanical engineering course load. But he is a sophomore now, and so far he has played first string in football, and he's getting all passing grades in his engineering classes, and he has a internship lined up for this summer at an engineering firm. So I think doing all that as a 20-year-old kid is, especially in this day and age, is pretty impressive.
That is impressive. Absolutely. Tara, I want to talk about one aspect of what you just said, that my son graduates next, I guess, in a month and a half with his mechanical engineering degree.
Oh, good for him.
We have that in common.
Yeah.
And my wife is an academic advisor at a university in an engineering program. I'm putting this out there as a public service gift, I hope, for people to consider. So many of the students entered the program not realizing the amount of discipline and scheduling and tenacity that would be required to get a difficult, rewarding degree like a mechanical engineering degree. Yeah. My wife sees that constantly. So many young people that didn't learn the lessons that your son obviously learned, right?
Yeah.
We rarely talk about this kind of stuff on the Adventure Sports podcast, but learning to do the hard thing the stick-to-itiveness of it, the planning for it. I mean, if you've got kids and you think, I want them to learn to do the hard thing and also be responsible, maybe you have a 10-year-old and you say, guess what, buddy? Guess what, lady, gal, whatever.
Yep.
You're going to plan a family backpacking trip for 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to tell us where we go, the distance we're going to do.
Yeah.
You're in charge of the food. Make sure we have everything we need, and I'll help you.
Yeah.
But this is your trip to plan. What an experience for a young person to get to learn how to do big things like that.
Yeah.
And the impact that can have later in life. I believe that adventure sports can help people to succeed in challenging circumstances, just like you've explained more than once as we visited here today. But if you give your children that gift, then maybe they will be one of the kids who gets through the tough program and has a rewarding career path, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I just think that that's valuable, and it doesn't mean they have to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They may choose a different path, and that's okay too.
Yes.
And a lot of people that listen to the Adventure Sports podcast are people that said, no, I am not interested in that career. I'm interested in exploring what it means to experience life to the fullest. And, they've chosen other paths. And I think that's fantastic too.
Yeah.
But doing the hard thing is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Can you give us an example as we finish up here, Tara, of doing a hard thing?
Well, I mean, obviously there was, the Ironman and the marathons, but I do have an Ironman tattoo on my leg, and it is to remind me on a daily basis that I can do the hard things.
I love it.
Yep.
So what's next?
I mentioned Sydney and London for the world marathons, and then we are going to Antarctica for my 50th birthday at the end of 2027. So
hooray!
Yeah. So those are some upcoming exciting adventures.
Nice. So does that mean you're going to also check the 7 continents?
Yes, I will. Yep.
That's fantastic. What are you going to do in Antarctica? We're going to have to jump, but I want to hear.
We're flying the Drake Passage. We're going with another couple, and then it's like an 8-day cruise, but you get to jump in the ocean, literally, and then there's like kayaking, and I believe that you get off the boat and walk around at some point as well. So it should be fun. Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. Thank you, Tara, for sharing with us today. I think what you shared, so many people would say you can't have 5 kids and do Ironman marathon. You can't. You can. You've proven it.
Yeah.
You have proven it. Well, thank you for sharing that with us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And for all the listeners out there, wow, huh? You can do it. Let's quit making excuses and get out there and have some fun.
Agreed. Thank you.